I'm graduating into one of the worst job markets in years. Layoffs and hiring freezes are hitting every industry except healthcare. You have generative AI hitting the industries. You have DEI rollback, high interest rates for businesses, and AI robots are now being introduced into the supply chain. Even some of the most sought after fields like comp sci, like finance, like consulting are facing hiring freezes or having to push back a lot of the people who got offers start dates back. And yet we have a lot of economists saying that we're teetering on a recession or not. The labor market is relatively strong, but tell that to the seniors that can't find a job. Or tell that to all the senior professionals that are getting laid off from their jobs.
There is a lot of uncertainty right now as the tariffs take effect and the impact of cuts to government agencies begin to surface. Hiring.
You got two buckets. You have the corporate and collegiate world, and then you have the real world. The real world is where entrepreneurs have to be scrappy, have to move around, and then you have the corporate collegiate world in which students either have to get a master's degree, have to settle for a lower paying job, and or have to be creative like myself and find other different paths to be able to cover the tuition that they already paid. If you don't have that straight and narrow path like law school or med school or the finance internship, then ultimately you're an entrepreneur. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're now getting pushed into that real world bucket and not that corporate collegiate. But the problem with going into that real world bucket is that you are now facing the other people that did not spend 4 years in college and ultimately are now pairing your experience up with no experience but yet a degree. But ultimately that degree does not have any bearing in this real world bucket that we're talking about. But you need experience, and you can't get experience without having an entry-level job, and you can't get an entry-level job because it's getting scooped up by MBAs and senior-level professionals that got laid off. Now you're in two buckets of reality again. The corporate bucket, the traditional, the secured path, or the real-world bucket where it's unpredictable and you figure it as you go. And newsflash, college does not prepare you for the real world bucket, and they're pushing students into this space in which they're just going to fall flat on their face and ultimately fall into a depression because they're spiraling, not knowing how to figure it out. You gotta be scrappy. Let's talk about AI a little bit, right? They say AI is not gonna take your job. It's only the people that don't know how to implement. Look at this. When I was working at a bank, they were just introducing all the AI tools that they were allowing for the salespeople to go use from the content team. Instead of having the salesperson communicate to the research and the content person, they're just having the salesperson become the research and content person and being able to talk to them. I'm telling you, there's industry shifts happening because of AI, and it's not just generative AI where you see, copywriters and journalists get cooked, but you're not seeing factory jobs and all these other physical jobs being taken because they're now making AI robots for it as well. And the worst part is that they're not slowing down. To top it off, the government does not care. We have a billionaire who runs a top 500 company within the world, probably top 50, top 10 company in the world who profits from AI replacing humans. Because don't forget that Elon is a proponent of AI and in addition to AI robots, which he's trying to soft launch because he has an arm out of Tesla that is doing AI robotics. And yet he holds a position within our state apparatus. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. I mean, don't even take it just to like the government and like regular physical jobs and stuff like that, but also think about the precedents that is being set. I mean, think of Adrian Brody for the Oscars. He just won an Oscar for The Brutalist, in which they allowed him to assist his speech and make his accent sound a little bit better to match the movie. And yet he won an Oscar for that. Look at the precedents that's being set. The Grammys is next. What can you do? Long story short, it's not your fault, and it's just a terrible time to graduate. Here's a game plan. 3 things to do. First is reduce your spending, cut your spending, right? Like whatever you've been going on, if you did your trips, make sure you're not doing a bunch of trips. Make sure you're not spending on a lot of different things. At this moment, it is best to try to keep cash on hand. We might be entering a recession, so it's important that even if you want to invest or do whatever, it's not the time to be spending all your bread at the moment. Second, find ways to make your bread outside of corporate. If you have to freelance, you have to go into content creation, you have to go into consulting, anything that can scale, try to do that so you can be able to try to make your own type of money outside of corporate. So you're not reliant on a offer or a job, or even if you had a job, then maybe getting laid off or something like that. Third thing, most important piece of the game plan is to stay happy. You can't let them take your happiness away. Like, that's the one thing you got is joy. And one thing I got taught from Ghana is that, like, you don't need all this materialistic stuff to be able to be happy or to enjoy yourself. You don't need to be going out every day to go enjoy yourself. Go hang around with family. Go do things with your siblings. Go do things with your friends, where you could just be outside and enjoying nature. Luckily, it's about to be warm again, so it's like, it's a perfect time to have this type of opportunity, but it's also a perfect time to not just be siloed into yourself and not have to feel sorry for yourself or have to go through a lot of this stuff alone. Like, this is a terrible time. This is a chaotic time for people, not just students, but also teachers, but also parents. They're raising kids during this time, so think about it like that. I project this cycle to last about 1 to 3 more years, to be honest, and I don't think it's going to slow up. So ultimately, you have to prioritize yourself, you have to prioritize your time, and get ready and buckle up a little bit for the ride.
What's good, yo?
Yeah, so the goal is survival and strategy. If you need pointers, I drop direct videos on how to invest, how to create a portfolio, how to do a bunch of different things, where I broke down exactly how to position yourself in this job market. With that, it's been Saadiq Ranks, a creative and corporate. I'll see y'all next week. All love.